Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Landon Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome to the show, Landon.
Thank you, Tom. Great to be here.
All right, so we're talking Starbucks, the new CEO. In the midst of this turnaround story, it's been, a rough, choppy trade over the last couple of years, but that's because of decreasing sales and, maybe consumers spending less. And then overseas, you've got some issues in China also. I mean, what kind of data are you guys seeing? Because I've been watching what the analysts are saying, and they're all saying that this turnaround story is taking place, but I don't know if I've seen it yet.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting expectations play. I mean, they got upgraded yesterday, I think a new price target of $100 from one of the researchers. Institutions own 83%, 5/6 of this company. So that's a big factor. But you're right. I mean, if you look at, last quarter, they missed on revenue, they missed on earnings. Their net income dropped by half, down 50%. Their margins are under 7%. Same-store sales dropped a point and 2 points in the U.S., and it's actually their fourth quarter in a row of misses. And I think a lot of people are betting on Brian Niccol, and rightfully so. I mean, he did fantastic with Chipotle, and I would guess that he's going to do well, right? I mean, when you look at his plan, he's talking about back to Starbucks. He's prioritizing better labor, friendlier people, better processes with the way that people handle things, as opposed to making everything super automated. Not that he's anti-tech. He's not. I mean, he's talking. He's adding order sequencing that's cut times by two minutes, cut wait times by 2 minutes. They're streamlining the menu, getting rid of some of the under-ordered things, and letting people focus in on the higher margin stuff. Increasing marketing, and then of course they're bringing it back to what it was, right? They're bringing back ceramic mugs, more premium seating, some more free refills. So kind of what brought them to the point where they were super successful, and they moved away from that, and so he's bringing them back. I think it's a smart plan, but I think when you look at what happened with the tariff talk, the stock dropped a lot, and then they had that last quarter earnings report. It dropped, but not as much as you might have thought it would drop. When those numbers I just went over, you thought it would drop more, and I think it's starting to kind of get priced in that it's pretty low. He's going to turn things around. Everything's going to be fine. Just hold and wait, and that's starting to scare me a little bit, because when I look at the data, it's just not there. It hasn't started yet. I mean, I like the plan, but when is it going to start getting traction? And he's rightfully so. The CEO said that EPS is kind of, I'll paraphrase. He basically said it's short-sighted to look at that. We've got to bring back the customer experience. But you can see on this chart, I mean, digital traffic with Starbucks, you don't want the one at the bottom at negative 26%. I mean, that's tough. And we threw in a few comparisons there. One of those Dutch Bros is, I'm telling you, that's the up-and-comer. I mean, we've been on that stock for a year, up about 70% on it. I think if you want to play coffee, the ticker Bros is the way to go. And Starbucks, I get the trade on Starbucks. It's undervalued. He's going to turn things around. It's kind of become an underdog with 5 quarters in a row of slipping. But when is it going to take place? And if enough people start to believe that that's going to happen, it becomes priced in. And then if it doesn't, you got a really ugly trade. So I think that patience is warranted here, but the longer it takes, the more iffy it gets. And I think there's better places to put your money.
Yeah, that's that's one of the biggest concerns, I think. This isn't like what Brian Niccol did before with Chipotle and with Taco Bell. They were ripe, for innovation, right, in that space. Starbucks has been around. It's a big ship turning in the canal and trying to change direction for this company. And then you'll start looking at the price points here, Lane, and I think that's one of the big things, inflationary pressures that everybody's been talking about. The consumer kind of pulling back on discretionary items for a little bit. Is that going to be come into play? Because Starbucks is never going to lower the price of their drinks, right? And when you go and get a drink and it's $6-7, 2 people, it's $15-20 if you get some food or something. That becomes a concern also. Is that what you guys see when you look at data? Is once your sentiment, radar ticks off and says, "Oh, I'm not going to go to Starbucks as much as I used to," and then it's hard to bring that back just because there's still that cost element in there. And if the experience, while it might be better, it's not going to be life-changing again, right? Because this is an established company, and maybe, those numbers that you mentioned as far as your data goes, they don't come back as fast as maybe some of these investors think it might.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It takes a long time to turn that consumer experience, which is why companies have to be so careful. They have to guard that so well, and I think that's what got Starbucks in trouble. They moved away from what got them there, it's basically they took the small coffee shop and cloned it nationwide, and you knew what you can order everywhere, and you got your favorite drink, and if you went to one location to another, you knew that it was going to be the same, but it had that small coffee feel. And they moved away from that, and he's trying to get it back, which is smart, but it's going to take a while. And in the meantime, people have been checking out and discovering other places. And once you kind of lock in, it becomes a habit. It's hard to break that habit. So it is a very slow ship, not just to turn the company, but to turn the consumer experiences. And I think that's what investors are starting to realize, is that, this isn't, hire him and 2 quarters later, everything's great. It's going to take a little bit of time. So that's the main concern. And again, the stock is kind of priced. It's starting, I think, to price it in. And that's where you get, I'm a contrarian. You want to always be a little bit against the grain so that when something happens that people don't expect, it moves in your direction. So I think we're starting to get to the point where a lot of institutions, I talked about 5/6 of money in Starbucks as institutions, a lot of them are saying it's going to be fine, just wait it out. But the longer it takes, you start to get a little confidence shaking there, could be a problem. But to your point, I mean, they're not going to lower prices. The margins are 7%. You would think it's higher. They're selling coffee and sugar, but it's a lot to put these products out, and with tariffs and everything, that inflation and labor prices going up, they're just not going to have that room. So they have to win on experience, which is what they're going for. Right. They got away from it. They're going back to it. How long is it going to take? That's the question. But again, while I do think this is probably not a terrible buy here in the mid or lower 90s, I think there's a lot better places to put your money.
Yeah, in your data, the web visits versus the stock price, where we've seen a bump up in the stock price. You've got some activist investors in there, Elliott Management, Starboard, also in there also, so that kind of piques investor interest. But they better change their rewards, because you used to be able to get a free drink after, maybe a couple weeks of drinking it. Now it's like, I don't know, you can barely use any points. You're not going to get anybody to come back unless you increase that rewards. Maybe I'm speaking from experience there, Landon, on that one.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
All right, great breakdown for us, Landon. Have a great weekend.
All right, happy Independence Day. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the data that he has on Starbucks. It's made some